If you've never read The Investiture of the Gods, here's the basic setup. At the end of the Shang dynasty, King Zhou, the last Shang emperor, was a cruel tyrant, and the rising Zhou kingdom, led by King Wu, was fated to overthrow him and establish a new dynasty. But behind all this political drama, a divine power struggle was taking place. The immortal sages of Kunlun Mountain, led by Yuanshi Tianzun, the primeval Lord of Heaven, supported the Zhou kingdom, while the powerful sorcerers of Jiao, the sect of the Intercepted, supported Shang. At the center of it all was the Fengshen Bang, the investiture of the gods list. This was a cosmic job listing for divine positions in heaven. The catch? To get on the list, you had to die first. The so-called Fengshen War wasn't just a battle between the Shang and Zhou dynasties. It was a pre-scripted recruitment drive for the celestial bureaucracy. In this celestial chessboard, Jiang Ziya was the official player of the game, responsible for setting up the board and determining which mortals, demons, and warriors would be turned into gods. Shen Gongbao, on the other hand, was the man who tried to flip the whole chessboard over. He saw through this grand scheme and refused to be a mere pawn in it. Instead, he tried to become a player himself. Or better yet, he tried to destroy the game altogether. But he failed. He recruited warriors to fight for the Shang dynasty, thinking he could defy fate. But all he did was accelerate the process. He ended up filling the Fengshen Bang with names faster than Jiang Ziya could have done it alone. In the end, he was a tragic figure, an outlier, a rebel, and ultimately, the most unwilling accomplice in celestial history. But was he really wrong? Most people remember Shen Gongbao as a villain, a scheming traitor who defected from Kunlun and sided with the Shang dynasty. But what if I told you that he and Jiang Ziya were once equals? That's right. They were both disciples of Yuanshi Tianzun. By all logic, Shen Gongbao should have had the same chance to lead the Fengshen campaign. He was powerful, intelligent, and unlike Jiang Ziya, he wasn't an old man pushing 80. Then came the moment that changed his fate forever. One day, Yuanshi Tianzun made his decision. The one chosen to carry out the investiture of the gods would be Jiang Ziya. Shen Gongbao couldn't believe it. He and Jiang Ziya had trained together for years. He had talent. He had ambition. So why was Jiang Ziya chosen over him? Was it because Jiang Ziya was more obedient, more easygoing, more willing to be a puppet of fate? Shen Gongbao refused to accept it. He went to his master and demanded an answer. But Yuanshi Tianzun simply replied, "Fate has already been decided. Jiang Ziya is the chosen one. You must not interfere." And just like that, Shen Gongbao realized the bitter truth. This world was never fair. He wasn't denied the position because of his abilities. He was denied because he wasn't the right person, according to some divine script. That's when he made his decision. If fate was unfair, then fate needed to be destroyed. If Kunlun wouldn't let him be part of the game, then he would join the opposition and burn the whole system down. And so, he left Kunlun. He defected to Jiao, aligned himself with the Shang dynasty, and sought out every warrior, demon, and outcast who had been rejected by fate. People just like him. At that moment, he became a traitor, an exile, a villain in the grand story. But was he really a villain? Or was he just the only one brave enough to fight against a rigged system? If Shen Gongbao had been an ordinary fighter, he would have never made it into the history books. His real strength wasn't his martial arts or magic, it was his ability to talk. He was the greatest recruiter in history, a master manipulator who could persuade anyone to switch sides. While Jiang Ziya convinced immortals to join the Zhou kingdom, Shen Gongbao single-handedly recruited an entire army for Shang. Look at the people he talked into the war. Tu Xingsun, the mole man with earth-walking abilities, defected after just one conversation. Deng Zhugong and Deng Chanyu, father-daughter warriors, convinced in a matter of minutes. The 4 demon generals of Mo family, they were minding their own business until Shen Gongbao hyped them up for battle. Yuan Hong, the White Ape King, a wild spirit, convinced that he was destined to overthrow heaven. Zhao Gongming, a powerful deity, convinced that Jiang Ziya was actually the villain. One after another, he pulled in powerful warriors, and one after another, they all died. The cruel irony. All of these warriors ended up on the Fengshen Bang. By trying to rescue them from fate, Shen Gongbao delivered them right into the system he was trying to destroy. He thought he was leading a rebellion. In reality, he was doing Jiang Ziya's job for him, and when he finally realized it, he laughed. A bitter, broken laugh. He had spent his whole life defying fate, only to help fulfill it. The war was reaching its climax. Shang's forces were collapsing. The Zhou army, led by Jiang Ziya, was marching toward victory. By now, Shen Gongbao wasn't just a wandering recruiter anymore. He had built an entire army. Thanks to him, the Shang side was stacked with elite warriors, demon kings, master strategists, divine beasts, and legendary generals. But there was one problem. He wasn't a general. He didn't lead troops. He didn't fight on the battlefield. He only talked. He recruited warriors. But once they stepped onto the battlefield, all he could do was watch. And one by one, he watched them all die. Zhao Gongming, his strongest ally, was ambushed and killed by Luya Daoist. The four Mo generals, his most trusted warriors, were slaughtered by Zhou's formation masters. Yuan Hong, the White Ape King, fell into Jiang Ziya's trap and was brutally executed. Deng Chanyu, the warrior woman he admired, fought bravely but perished in battle. Even Tu Xingsun, the sneaky trickster he recruited, didn't survive the war. He realized a horrifying truth. He had spent his life recruiting people to fight against fate, only to send them straight to their deaths. And their deaths weren't meaningless. Each of them was added to the Fengshen Bang, becoming new gods under Jiang Ziya's rule. The more Shen Gongbao struggled, the more perfectly he helped the system he hated. He had fought so hard against fate, and fate had used him as a pawn. Standing among the battlefield ruins, surrounded by corpses, he laughed. It wasn't a victorious laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had finally seen the cruel joke that life had played on him. What have I been doing this whole time? He thought he was resisting destiny. He was just helping it unfold. Shen Gongbao had one last desperate idea. If the Fengshen Bang was the root of everything, then he would destroy it. No list, no gods, no destiny. If fate was just a script, then he would tear the script apart. So, he went alone into Zhou's main camp. His mission: destroy the Fengshen platform and steal the Investiture of the Gods list. It was the most important battle of his life. And he lost. Badly. Because he was never Jiang Ziya's equal. He had been fighting this war for so long, and only now did he finally understand. He hadn't lost because of fate. He had lost because he was never meant to win. He wasn't a warrior, he wasn't a leader. He was just a loudmouth who thought he could talk his way out of destiny. The war was over. King Zhou of Shang burned himself alive. The Zhou dynasty was established, and now it was time to complete the Fengshen Bang. One by one, Jiang Ziya announced the names of those who had died in the war, granting them divine positions. Zhao Gongming, granted the title of True Lord of the Golden Dragon and Guardian of Wealth. Deng Chanyu, appointed as a fire deity. The four Mo generals, named the gods of thunder, wind, fire, and lightning. Yuan Hong, ascended as a five directions guardian. One by one, every warrior Shen Gongbao had recruited was given a divine rank. And Shen Gongbao, nothing. He wasn't called. No title. No recognition. He was the only major figure in the war who was left out. He stared at Jiang Ziya, his old rival, his fellow disciple, the man who had stolen his fate. And finally, he spoke. Jiang Ziya, don't you call me your fellow disciple? This was the most heartbreaking moment in the entire novel. This wasn't an insult. It wasn't an accusation. It was the last question of a man who had lost everything. A man who had watched his recruits die. A man who had fought the system and failed. A man who was now standing alone, abandoned, forgotten. Jiang Ziya looked at him, and simply replied, "The paths we walk are different. We are no longer the same." That was it. No sympathy, no hatred, just indifference. Shen Gongbao had lost. There was nothing left for him. So he turned around and walked away. No one knows what happened to him after that. He vanished from history. Was Shen Gongbao truly a villain? If he was, then why did he never commit any true evil? If he wasn't, then why did fate treat him like one? He recruited countless warriors, but if he hadn't, they would have died anyway. He thought he was defying destiny, but destiny never needed his help. It would have unfolded the same way with or without him. Was fate really unbreakable? Shen Gongbao tried to fight it, but fate didn't fight him back. It just let him destroy himself. In the end, he gained nothing. Not a throne, not a victory, not even a divine title. He was nothing more than a footnote in a history he had helped write. If he had accepted his role at Kunlun, he might have stood beside Jiang Ziya as one of the architects of heaven's new order. But he refused to submit. And for that, he became a loser. A fool. A forgotten man. But was he wrong? If you knew your fate was already written, would you still fight it? Shen Gongbao did. And in doing so, he proved that the biggest joke in history was that no one can win against fate.